Days ago, her captors claimed that she was killed. They said by a coalition airstrike, but they didn't give proof of that. So the young Arizona woman's family, U.S. officials, and everyone who knew her incredible story or her terrible plight, they all held out hope. And that hope has now ended. Late this morning, the White House confirmed that Kayla Jean Mueller is dead. Dead at the hands of hateful and abhorrent terrorists. Aides say that President Obama has spoken with Kayla's family, who we understand received word, personal word, from ISIS. Personal word accompanied by photographs that came just this past weekend. And as if this family hasn't suffered enough after she was taken hostage more than a year and a half ago, wondering if she'd be okay, and then wondering since last week if it was true, was she really dead? Now comes the news that they just have to accommodate. She is dead. And they've released this statement. I just want to read it for you as they sent it to us. This is from Kayla Jean Mueller's parents, Carl and Marcia, and her brother Eric and his family. We are heartbroken to share that we've received confirmation that Kayla Jean Mueller has lost her life. Kayla was a compassionate and devoted humanitarian. She dedicated the whole of her young life to helping those in need of freedom, justice, and peace. In a letter to her father on his birthday in 2011, this is before Kayla had been taken hostage, Kayla wrote this: "I find God in the suffering eyes reflected in mine. If this is how you are revealed to me, this is how I will forever seek you. I will always seek God. Some people find God in church, some people find God in nature, some people find God in love. I find God in suffering. I've known for some time what my life's work is, using my hands as tools to relieve suffering." Kayla was drawn to help those displaced by the Syrian civil war. She first traveled to Turkey in December of 2012 to provide humanitarian aid to Syrian refugees. She told us of the great joy that she took in helping Syrian children and their families. We are so proud of the person Kayla was and the work that she did while she was here with us. She lived with a purpose, and we will work every day to honor her legacy. Our hearts are breaking for our only daughter, but we will continue on in peace, dignity, and love for her. We remain heartbroken also for the families of the other captives who did not make it home safely and who remain in our thoughts and prayers. And we pray for a peaceful resolution of the conflict in Syria. The family has requested in lieu of flowers the following: Kayla's mission of humanitarian work, donations be made to causes that Kayla would have supported, and additional information will be made available in the coming weeks. The messages from a family now in mourning, but a family at least with answers, the answers they certainly did not want to get. I want to bring in CNN's Kyung La, who is live now in Mueller's hometown of Prescott, Arizona, and CNN Justice correspondent Pamela Brown, who's in Washington, D.C. Kyung, if I can just go to you, I just cannot imagine what this family is going to, thinking what they've been through and now thinking what they're learning. Will there be any more response from this family, and do we know where they go from here?
It's hard to imagine where they go from here, because this is a private hell that I think most of us can't even imagine. We haven't gotten any word of whether or not there's going to be any public memorial for this woman, this extraordinary young woman, only 26 years old. But there is a sign here on the town square. You can see it sort of over my shoulder, but here's a closer look at it. It's a sign that says, "Pray for Kayla." And you can see that there are flowers beginning to grow beneath it. Throughout the weekend, there has been a restraint by a lot of people in this town of 40,000. They haven't really wanted to acknowledge it yet until the parents came out with a statement. But now that they have acknowledged it, you can see that there is grief becoming palatable here in this town. The family also has been telling us through spokespeople that they want people to understand who Kayla Mueller is, that she is an extraordinary woman. As you said, Ashley, she went around the world to try to help people who could not help themselves. And so in keeping in line with that, they also released a handwritten letter that Kayla wrote while in captivity. It is dated November 2nd, 2014, and it's quite a long handwritten letter, but I want to highlight one particular part of it because it gets to the heart of what the family wants people to know about her. And Kayla writes, "I have been shown darkness, light, and learned even in prison one can be free. I am grateful. I have come to see that there is good in every situation. Sometimes we just have to look for it. In the darkest corners of the globe, that is what she tried to do. She tried to bring light to people who have no light, and that's something that her parents want people to know about their daughter, even in death.
I can't imagine, Kyung, that they're even thinking about further communication with these murderers, but ultimately, are they trying to get her body back, and if so, how?
It's very hard to know. In this sort of situation, the likelihood of it, if you talk to U.S. officials, it's very unknown what the possibility of that is. We do know that in a public statement released Friday evening, the family had sent out a public statement directly to the captors, to the ISIS captors, saying, "We want to talk to you directly and privately." We later learned that the family said that they wanted to be reached through the original channels. We don't know what those original channels are. We now know that they got that photo confirmation of her death. So as difficult as it is to perhaps see those pictures, not knowing, from what we know from the people who are in touch with the family, not knowing would have been far worse. Ashley.
Of course, Pamela, I want to bring you in on this, if I may. The administration has been a part of this with that family. Private communication or not, they definitely authenticated these photos and confirmed this death. But in the meantime, there is still this question. ISIS said it was a Jordanian airstrike that killed Kayla, and yet the administration is saying that her captors are responsible for her death. But are they being more clear than that?
No, they're not. I mean, the bottom line here is that Kayla died while she was being held captive by ISIS. ISIS is responsible for her death, no matter how she was killed, Ashley. That's the bottom line. But from the new information that has come to light, these pictures that the family received from Kayla's ISIS captors over the weekend, they don't clarify how she was killed, whether it was in fact in an airstrike or whether she was executed by ISIS before or after the airstrikes on Friday where ISIS claimed she was killed. So that is very much a question. But after a forensic analysis of these pictures, coupled with the feeling that, she can't turn up alive now that ISIS has already said she is dead, that led the family and the government to this very sad conclusion. Ashley?
There is another question here, and that is that while Americans may not fully, get their heads around this notion, ISIS or not ISIS, one of their chief tenets is that they care for their guests. It is a twisted logic when you think of these people that they have abducted and murdered so violently. But that is an issue. And if she was a guest of theirs, as she even noted in her letter, is there any talk of this in channels overseas that this will backfire like perhaps no other brutal hostage killing on video has?
That is a concern. Of course, she is also a woman, and that also changes the calculus. And some are speculating at this point that that's why ISIS didn't exploit her death as they have with other hostages, the beheadings and so forth that they've used as propaganda. The fact that she is a woman changes things. There's also a concern, Ashley. Mueller was the last known American being held captive by ISIS. There's a concern that perhaps they could try to take more Western hostages by going to refugee camps in neighboring countries. So this is an ongoing concern and threat. Ashley?
We have seen that concern, that intelligence has pointed to this being a brand new strategy to go to Jordan and Syria and even Lebanon and capture hostages and bring them through that porous border to hold them. So there is an even more dire concern for people living or working or doing this humanitarian work. Pamela Brown, thank you for that, and our thanks to Kyung-la as well, who's in Prescott, Arizona, where the family is grieving. And there is more coming on the death of this U.S. aid worker, Kayla Mueller, at the hands of ISIS terrorists, or at least as she was being held by them. What is the next move of this president in the United States and this Congress to defeat the killers? That's just ahead.